Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to Phoenix Business RadioX, broadcasting live right here from Mac 6 Conscious Workspace in the Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And I'm very happy today to reconnect and introduce you to Brooke Lively, founder and president of Cathedral Capital. Welcome to the show, Brooke.
Thanks, Karen. It was so great when we came across your show and I was like, I know Karen. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I can't remember your PR gal's name, but when she said, hey, here's this great gal, I'd like to see if we can get her on your show. I said, is she going to be in town? She's like, no, not anytime soon. I'm like, okay, well, tell her I said hello. And yes, we need to hear from Brooke and Cathedral Capital. So let's get our listeners caught up on who you are and who you serve. Tell us a little bit about you and your business, and we'll just go from there.
Okay, so Brooke Lively, Cathedral Capital, and can I do this kind of the long way?
You do it. And listen, we've got a full hour, so you do however you like
All
to
right.
do.
So I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I kind of said it this way, which I really kind of liked. So our logo is a mountain, and I talk about mountains a lot. And our logo is a mountain because when I was starting the company, I went on this hike with a friend, and it was supposed to be a moderate hike, and that is total BS. It was like 7 miles. The vertical climb was huge, and I didn't make it. And I tried, and I was in pretty good shape at the time, right? So a couple of years later, I went back with my sister, and my sister is a very experienced hiker. And she knew what was coming up and she could really prepare me. And I made it to the top. And I made it to Cathedral Lake. So our company's called Cathedral Capital. I thought about what the difference was between the first time I tried it and the second time I tried it. And it was having my sister there. And then I thought about Sir Edmund Hillary. And he's the first man who ever climbed Mount Everest. And he didn't climb it alone, right? He had a Sherpa named Tenzing Norgay. And Tenzing's job was to know what was coming up, to prepare him, to do the heavy lifting, to tell him about things they were going to encounter, to solve the problems, to pave the way, to make it so that Sir Edmund could get to the top. And when we talk about our company, I realize that our job is to be financial Sherpas. We help companies grow and scale by serving as their CFO. And we do exactly for our clients what Tenzing did for Sir Edmund Hillary. We say, here's what's coming up. Here are the problems you're going to encounter. Here's what we need to deal with before we get there so you don't fall in a crevasse or slide back down the mountain or run into any of these other things. It's our job to use our professional knowledge because let's face it, I've got incredible people on my team. Mm-hmm. I have all these CFOs. For a small business to bring a CFO in at $150,000 a year doesn't make sense. So I carry the big salaries and let people just use part of a CFO, and it really gives them that strategic help that they need. So long answer, we're financial Sherpas.
Yeah,
that's
I love
what we do.
What a great example of not only how reflective you are, and that you keep, in your own personal life and professional life, you just stay the course till you've got something. And that's who we need on our team, right? Someone who can see and have the experience to tell us, this is how you get there, hold us accountable to it, right? And of course, work the numbers the way we need to. I'm not a number person, so I need to have my teammates who do it.
And let's face it, most people don't start a business because they're numbers people. They start a business because they're passionate about something, right?
Yeah.
You didn't say, I want to start a business and the type of business doesn't matter just so long as I get to crunch a bunch of numbers.
There are a few people I know who are like that, but not.
Yeah, and they're accountants.
Right. And thank God for that. Now the clientele that you work with, is it different verticals and industries, or is there a sweet spot?
So sweet spot is 1 to 20 million in revenue. So we work with small businesses. We do work with a few below a million if they've got kind of that fast trajectory and they need to kind of manage the growth. And then professional services, service-based businesses. So, I mean, Karen, let's just be really honest. I don't like accrual accounting. It doesn't reflect what's happening in your bank account. So it's really hard to explain to business owners. And so if I can get away with no manufacturing, which has to use accrual accounting.
So anything but manufacturing.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Professional services. So, and you've been at this how long under the title of Cathedral Capital? A while.
6 years.
Yeah.
7 years, something like that. You should know that better, but I do remember hitting that 5-year mark, and I can't remember what the statistic is. What is it? Like 95% of businesses fail in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm like 5%. I'm in the 5%, man.
I must be doing something right.
Yes.
And prior to this, was this always a dream of yours to be your own business owner and to help businesses in this capacity?
It wasn't. I mean, I had this so when I was 14, I decided to go to boarding school. So I don't make anything
You
short.
decided that.
Well, yes. I decided and a lot of people in my family had gone. So like it wasn't uncommon. And so I'm like, I'm going to go. And my father said, okay, you need to decide what you want to do in your life. You need to decide what grad school will get you into that career. You need to decide what college will get you into that grad school. And then you need to decide what boarding school will get you into that college. So I'm 14 years old. Map out your whole stinking life. Because that's like no pressure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're 40-year-olds that don't know what they want to do with their life. So yeah, 14, sure. So I actually came up with one. And one of my best friend's father basically greenmailed Disney, right? So they had bought enough Disney stock that he installed Michael Eisner as the CEO after a 30-minute call. And he didn't ask the board, can we do this? They went into a board meeting and his board member said, we have done this.
Oh my
kind
God.
of thing. So here's this man. He is so smart. He's fabulous. He's in finance. He's doing all this stuff. He's got really hot guys from Wharton that worked for him. Okay, I'm 14, right? Well, what's important? The cute boys. Okay, so I was like, I got this, Daddy. Here's what I want. I want to work for somebody like Mr. Rainwater. I want to go into finance.
Yeah.
All the hot boys are coming out of Wharton, and it's obviously the best, so I want to go to Wharton. So the college was UVA that would get me into Wharton, and Madeira, where I went to boarding school, had this very special relationship with UVA to get students in. Of course, that very special connection actually left and went to another school the year I got there, but whatever. Okay. So I had this whole plan, and Madeira is amazing because your senior year, well, we only go to school 4 days a week. The 5th day you work. So freshman year, it's about team building and study skills. Sophomore year, it's about community service. So hospitals, daycare centers, things like that. So you volunteer 1 day a week. Junior year, you work on Capitol Hill. So I was the legislative assistant in charge of the Alaskan Affair. Doesn't that sound impressive? And senior year, you do something that relates to your career. So I got to tell you, my father was like into this. This is working. He made me get a plan, and here Madeira is backing him up on the plan. So I worked for Drexel Burnham Lee & Bear, which at the time was one of the top 3 investment firms on Wall Street. Michael Milken was there. They were known for junk bonds, but they were actually one of the oldest houses. I was also a nationally ranked squash player at the time. So I was getting recruited by Penn. And I'm like, okay, so I can scrap UVA, I can go to Penn. This will be awesome, right? And Penn can get me into Wharton. It's the same school, right? Penn undergrad, Wharton, University of Pennsylvania grad school. Perfect, great, no problem. So I go to the guy for whom I was working, who was head of the DC office, who was a Wharton grad. And I said, will you write me a recommendation for Penn? And he's like, I'll happily do that. What's your plan? I got a plan. Here's my plan. I have the plan. So I told him the plan. And he said, would you want to come back and work here? And I'm thinking, oh my God, is this actually happening? This is awesome. I'm like, yes. And he got really quiet for a second. And he said, if you come to work for this company, even with an MBA from Wharton, you will never be anything more than a glorified secretary. And he said it out of every bit of kindness that he had, right? Don't set your sights. They had 2 female traders in LA and 1 in New York at the time. And I was crushed, Karen. Like, this was the plan. This had been the plan. I had the plan. I was working the plan. And so I threw the plan away. Like, completely threw it away. Ended up in an all girls, or sorry, my best friend gets mad at me when all women's college in Virginia. Graduated, had no idea what I wanted to do because I didn't amend the plan. I set it on fire and threw it out the window. Right? Yeah. There was just no plan. I floated through life. I graduated from college with a degree that, unless I went into the foreign service, had absolutely no use. And I needed something to do, so I went into retail. And I was in retail forever. And my parents were like, go to grad school. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to grad school because I have to stop working. Then I got to go on the dole. You guys are going to have to give me an allowance and I'm an adult. Okay. I don't want to do that. No way. And so I did that for a long time. And my mother got cancer. She's totally fine. And I quit my job to come home and help her through this, and realized I didn't want to go back into retail. So I went to grad school thinking I'm going to get a marketing degree because, that's what you do. And I loved finance. And I went back to grad school at 35. And so this company just kind of evolved. I got back into finance at 35, which, the irony is that was where I wanted to be 20 years earlier.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
I love it.
But I'm doing it in a different way. I was running a family business. We had hired a consultant. His client started asking if I could do for them what I was doing for my family. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what am I doing? Well, I found out that professional services didn't look at the numbers in their business. And so while I was doing things to make very analytical decisions, they didn't have that advantage. And so I started this business because there was a need. Okay. And I thought that was, So how did I start my business? It was accidental.
Yeah. And yet full circle from the original plan.
Yeah, full circle. That's the other thing. How in the world? I mean, I thought my father was crazy at 14 when he said, you have to do this. And I thought he was crazy for a lot of years. Okay, how annoying that he was right.
It's funny. I have a 13-year-old, and I shared with you before we came on that we've gone through some life changes. And in addition to the life changes everybody is going through with this pandemic. And I'm having these same conversations with him. He's such a smart kid. He's got the personality, the wit, the wisdom. He's got mad math skills, which he didn't get from me. He's also a 13-year-old boy. So he's kind of, just hanging back, not wanting to, trying to find the shortcuts for everything, which might end up being a really great skill set career-wise. I'm the person who wants the list of things, the steps, but he's always looking for the shortcut. And I guess if you still get to the finish line and beyond, it doesn't matter how you get there.
I'm that girl. Have him call me because I have the best shortcut for college ever.
We will need to talk about that. But my point being, I didn't know what I wanted to do. It took me a long time. In fact, I kept morphing, as you know, through a good portion of my career. And the studio, owning Phoenix Business RadioX, is finally this beautiful culmination of everything I've ever done. I'm like, yes, at 56, I've found it. But like your dad, I don't want my kiddo to not know what his path is. Even if it changes, I'm fine with it. But have a plan. have a path. So anyway.
So at 14, it feels like the weight of the world.
I know. Yeah.
And okay. So you want my college tip for your son?
Yes. Listen.
All right. Here's the deal. I figured this out and my friends were like, oh my God, you're a genius. I would choose one period of time and everything I took that semester revolved around that period. So I would take a medieval literature course. I would take a medieval history course, and I would take a medieval art history course.
That way you're all immersed into it.
Yeah, because guess what? You can write one paper and turn it in for all 3 classes. And you sound so much smarter as you talk about, because you can talk about the big shifts that are happening, right? Because talking about, English Renaissance literature, I could bring in what was happening politically and how that impacted it. I mean, I look so stinking. No. I was just going, I'm going to pull this from the history class and this from the art history class and this from the English class. And here's one paper.
That is my son to a T. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to hear and see what it looks like on the other side of it. Because as a parent, it's driving me crazy.
Oh my gosh.
I've never heard that as a strategy for college before. That's brilliant. It really is genius.
I've never heard anybody else do it either. And I think I came up with it like my sophomore year. Like, this just makes life so much easier. Because let's face it, I mean, I was pretty darn lazy in college and like, don't interrupt my afternoon nap time. And, I have a cool thing going.
I love it. I know we talked about, you have another book coming out, but before we talk about the next one, let's talk about the first one, From Panic to Profit. And I have a whole bunch of questions around really, what those 6 key numbers that you work with your clients. And if you'd be willing to give us some insight for those of us that don't have a front row seat with you managing that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So the book that came out was the first one in the series, and it was directed at law firms. The second one that's coming out is a little broader. So it's really directed at entrepreneurs. And when we look at a business, we kind of divide it into 6 areas. The first area is cash. We all know that cash is king. Mm-hmm. And then we start to look at the ideal ratios in the business, and we start to look at production. So like for you, Karen, whether you're producing your radio show, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how are you making money? How is work moving through your company? How much work can you have at any given time? How much can be done in a year? We look at your budget versus what actually happened. And I'll go into a whole thing about the budget. Sales and marketing is obviously part of any company. And then the last one is about engagement management. So like, talk about your average case, your average product, your average service, whatever it is, getting to know that. So each of these 6 areas of your business has one key number. And the way we came up with these is I was in an EO meeting one day. And I don't know, do you know about Entrepreneurs Organization?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'm in an EO meeting one day, and somebody said, if you are on a desert island in a fabulous 5-star resort, and there's a supply boat that comes once a week, and the supply boat brings not only supplies, but new guests, and it takes the old guests away. And on this fabulous desert island with your 5-star resort, there is no internet and there are no telephones. There's no cell service. So the only thing you can do is get information from the captain of the supply boat. What 3 pieces of information would you need from the captain of the supply boat to make a decision about whether you could stay another week or not? Yeah, you get 1 piece of paper with 3 numbers. So I really took this to heart. We really, like, as a company, we looked at this and we're like, what 3 pieces of information? And would I need something about like the production of my company? Would I need something about the cash? Would I need something about whether we're on budget or not? Like, what is that we would need? So we finally realized we didn't need 3 numbers. We needed 6.
Yeah, I was wondering because which 3 are you going to pick out of the 6?
Yeah,
But we need the 6.
Yeah, we need the 6. And 4 of these are very forward-looking, and 2 of them help us get back on track. And so we chose one key number in each of these areas. So in the cash area, cash is king. It's your cash flow forecast. So we want to know, if I'm sitting on that desert island, I want a piece of paper that tells me how much cash I'm going to have at the end of the week for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Of course.
If I have enough cash, I'm good to stay. If I don't have enough cash, I need to get back and deal with my company, right?
Yep.
So that's the first number, is your cash flow forecast. And that is, like I said, that's a forward-looking number. That's a predictive number. So the next one you really want to look at is in production, right? So we talk about the capacity of your company. We talk about how much of that capacity you're utilizing. So service-based companies don't think that they have inventory, and they do. It's just a different type of inventory. The inventory they have is intellectual capital.
Mm-hmm.
How much intellectual capital do you have? How many basically billable hours do you have in a week, a month, a year? How much of that are you using? And does everybody have billing goals? So when we combine all of those things, we look for what's the key number? And the key number is work in progress. So as you're looking throughout the month, how much work have you guys done? Because the work you do this month gets billed out next month and is next month's revenue, right? So we want to know work in progress. Are we on track or not?
Mm-hmm.
The third one is, sales and marketing. And there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, Karen, 42,000 things you can track here. And in what we like to do is we like to look at the conversion cycle. We look all the way through the conversion cycle. But really what matters to us is how many sales calls we've booked. If you know how many sales calls you've booked, you know how many clients you're going to have, because you know your conversion rate in that room, right? So
that is the key number in that area.
That is the key number. How many sales calls?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is all about engagement management, or case management if you're an attorney, or project management if you're in marketing, whatever it is. And so we use the word engagement because it covers everything. And that's really understanding the average engagement. How much do you charge? How much pressure does it put on your team? How long does it last? All of that. But the key number is net new engagements.
Growth.
Because, growth. Are we growing? Are we growing at a rate we expected to grow? Are we not growing at all? So if you're sitting there and the captain of the boat comes and he tells you net new cases or net new engagements is 7, you could have all kinds of different reactions, right? You could be like, 7, all right, so I'm gold for 10. We're 3/4 of the way through the month. I'm totally on track. Net new engagements at 10. I'm great. You could also go, I was only planning on having net new engagements of 2, and I have 7, which tells me my team is going to be swamped and I need to go back and I need to dig in and do some work and I need to start hiring.
Mm-hmm.
So we love that net new engagement number because it tells you a whole lot about what you need to look at with your team. And are you growing or shrinking? All of that. So those are all the forward-looking ones. Those tell us what's going to happen. And we also need some that help us get back on track. So NASA sends a rocket to the moon. They program in the coordinates. And it's not like they program it in and set it and forget it, right? They go back and check. Are we on course or are we off course? So when we talk about the areas of the business, the budget versus actual and owner compensation are the 2 areas that help us get back on track. So first of all, we don't like the word budget. It's the B word for us. Nobody likes a budget. I mean, let's face it, Karen, we're all entrepreneurs. And as such, we're all about the possibility, not the prohibition. So when you put a budget in front of somebody, they're like, it's limiting. It's what we can't do. This is all we can do. So there's a book by a guy named Mike McCallum. It's called Profit First. Have you ever read it?
He was on our show not too long ago. Yeah.
Is he not awesome?
He's amazing.
He cracks me up.
Yeah.
He actually
Fix this
wrote
first, isn't fix this first or fix this next or something like that is his other one.
Fix This Next. Oh my gosh, he's got the pumpkin plan. He's got
it's
one
so
about
good.
toilet paper. I can't remember what that one is.
Brilliant.
Fix This Next is his newest one. He actually wrote one of the quotes from my book.
Yay.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
He's awesome. I love him. But one of the things he said in Profit First was he took the balance sheet or the P&L, the profit and loss, and said, the equation is revenue minus expenses equals profit. And when you look at it that way, you're planning your expenses, right? But if you take revenue minus profit equals expenses, now you're planning your profit. And the expenses are what is left over that you get to spend. So we love this.
Like profit first.
Profit first. So we talk about planning for profit. And so that's why we don't call them budgets, we call them profit plans.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? So now we took something that's very limiting and all about, no, you can't do that, and turned it into, this is what you get to spend to achieve this goal.
How refreshing for your clients.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? It's a mindset change.
It is. And so we look at profit plans. So there's a report in every single stinking accounting program that will run what's called a budget versus actual report. And what it does is it puts your profit and loss, your P&L, next to your profit plan and tells you if you were succeeding or not, tells you if you were on track or not, tells you, and you go through and you look at it and you're like, was I over here for a good reason or a bad reason? Mm-hmm. And on an expense, there are places where I love people to be over on an expense, like credit card fees.
You love for them to be over on those?
I do, because on the transaction fees that we pay as the business, mm-hmm. because it means that we've been paid more. Oh. And when we get paid by credit card, we generally get paid faster and we have a higher collection rate. So when I see the amount that we collect through credit card going up, which then shows up as higher credit card fees, hot diggity, like that's awesome. I'd love to see that. But going through and looking at that and digging down and looking at, was I over for a good reason or a bad reason? Was revenue over? Is that good or bad? And what caused our revenue to rise? Mm-hmm. What caused our revenue to fall short? Was it that our billable people didn't have the work? Okay, that's a marketing problem. Was it that they didn't know how to do the work? Okay, that's a teaching and training program problem. Or was it that they forgot to write their time down? Also a teaching and training. Or was it that we weren't collecting? As far as I'm concerned, if you're not collecting, that's a contractual problem. You need to go back to your initial contract. Yeah. So I love this report because it helps you get back on track. And so that really is one of the key numbers. That's one of the 6 that you want the boat pilot to bring you. And then the last one is the one that it's owner compensation.
Hooray!
Yeah. So when we look at ratios, we run businesses on the rule of thirds. So of gross revenue, 1/3 should go to the people doing the work, 1/3 should go to overhead, and 1/3 should go to profit. Mm-hmm. If we're not getting those ratios, and because I love Mike and everything he does, we took some of what he did and combined it with some of what we did. And we actually will get granular and we'll tell you at what revenue level you need to do, how much you need to be spending on marketing or how much you need to be spending on some of these other things. But it tells you if you can afford to stay on the island or not. Mm-hmm. If you're not getting paid what you need to get paid, what you're supposed to get paid, if our expenses are out of whack somewhere, this says, ding, 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 you're spending too much on your people. Let's dig down and find the problem. Mm-hmm. Because the place that always suffers when we spend too much in a location is always profit. Just because you spend more on your people doesn't mean that your overhead goes down.
Right.
The only place that goes down is profit.
Yeah.
So how do we
Is,
get back on track?
is there one of these numbers that's most important, or would you say all six are critical?
Um,
Or is there an order of importance, I guess?
I think there's an order. I think you've got to get cash done first, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like if you don't have cash, none of the rest matters because you're not going to get there. So yes, I'm very concerned about cash. We look at that first. We tend to start looking at owner compensation pretty early because it gives us a big picture view of stuff when we look at those ratios. And it makes owners feel better that we're trying to make their lives better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Generally, the next place we start looking is production. What's our WIP? How much capacity and utilization, all that do we have? And we bring in a profit. We tend to bring in a profit plan also. We actually probably bring in a profit plan before we go into production because we need to know where we're going. We need some direction. And that's what that gives us. And so, so the ones that we tend to look at last is really digging down on sales and marketing, really digging down on case management. I am perpetually amazed at entrepreneurs that can say, our average engagement is $5,000 and it lasts about 7 months. And when we go down and we really dig, we'll find that it's worth $5,700 or $4,700 and it lasts, 6.3 months. Like, I can't believe how close they are. Like, what is this gut instinct that we were born with that's really fairly accurate? So there's some things that we can kind of push down on the list because there is a gut instinct and we can go, it's not a complete wag. It's not a wild guess. It's a knowledgeable guess.
Yeah.
So, we can put those a little further down the list.
Yeah. You say that sales is not the go-to solution for today's small business owners. If it's not sales, then what is it actually?
Yeah, I say that. I see so many people that are losing money and they're like, I just need to sell more. And I see a lot of coaches that are out there saying, spend the money and then you're going to figure out how to sell enough to cover it. And every time I hear someone say that, I think of a hamster on a wheel, right?
Yeah.
You're running and running and running and running and running and you're never getting anywhere. And the problem with just selling more when you're losing money is that it may cost you more to produce whatever that good or service is than what you're collecting.
Mm-hmm.
So selling more just digs your hole deeper.
Yeah. And so if it's not sales, what is it then?
I think the first thing you have to look at is pricing. Are we properly priced?
Sure.
What does it take us to produce this? Is there profit built in?
Mm-hmm.
Will it cover, are we properly priced? And part of that is also, are we paying our people properly? And are we pricing based on the way we pay people? I see so many people that come to me and they talk about pricing. They're like, well, this is what everybody else in my market is pricing. This is what they're charging. I'm like, okay, but I want to charge a price that supports your company and your cost structure.
Yeah.
I don't really care what Joe Schmo down the street's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's running.
Serve the specific clients you serve, right?
Yeah. Let's do it for you.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the right word, but this feels like a very holistic approach to managing a business from the financial perspective, right? These 6 numbers are the bare bones of how to get where you want to go and know how to do that step by step.
Yeah, it really is. And, Karen, you pick up a book and you read it and you read the story, right? So financial geeks like us pick up your P&L, we pick up your balance sheet, and in that we can read the story of your business.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, your CFOs, why are you talking about conversion cycles? Like, why are you talking about marketing stuff? Like, because your numbers and your money touch every single part of your business.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix your marketing, but I can look at the numbers and tell you where it's broken.
Yeah. And know that it needs to be fixed, or it's humming like a champ. Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. For every $1 we invest, we're getting, 42 back. More money in that.
Yeah. And I love the whole idea around profit first. As a business owner, we put everything we have into, especially your high wealth clients, they put everything they have into their business. And what you're helping them do is start to enjoy the fruits of their labor probably well sooner than a lot of other business owners. Am I right in thinking that when I can sit back and go, oh my gosh, I can breathe, I can focus on other things because I know this part of my business is being so well managed with these 6 numbers and that CFO that I have in that position. Am I right that that's the kind of feedback
Absolutely.
that you get from your clients?
Yeah. I can remember one client in particular that we worked with and then we didn't work with, and she came back and we've kind of been on and off over the past 6 or 8 years. And she was really funny. The first time she hired us, she sent me an email like 2 days later going, this is the first good night's sleep I've gotten in a long time. And then she stopped working with us and I got an email from her husband saying,
no longer sleeping.
You need to start working with her again. Because she's not sleeping and she's asking me all these questions that I can't answer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's big.
Yeah. When people start working with us, we talk about the ROI a lot, the return on the investment. And they're like, well, what's the ROI of working with you? And we're like, some of it's monetary. Some of it, we're going to come in and we're going to change your pricing. I mean, very often on sales calls, I change people's pricing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whether you hire me or not, you need to make these adjustments. Because I can just tell you right now. And I said, but it's not always, profit isn't always about dollars. Profit is, as you said, profit is your life. It's being able to sleep through the night. It's not second guessing all your decisions. It's also, we had a client that wanted to go to her children's swim lessons every Wednesday morning. Okay. That's profit, right? Yeah. And so we had to make sure that as we were working with her, as we were designing her business didn't need her on Wednesday mornings.
Right.
There had to be someone that could cover and do what she did on Wednesday mornings. We had another client who wanted to build a national reputation on something, which meant that she was going to be out of the office all the time, traveling and doing these big things. So we had to build a business where she wasn't part of the sales conversation. Because if you had to wait for her to come back in town to book a sales call, no one's ever going to be able to buy from them, right?
Yeah.
So she couldn't be part of the sales call and she couldn't be any part of client delivery. So what is that profit for you? Like, what really is it?
I can see why your clients love you. You've taken the conversation around money and profit and the numbers, which for a lot of business owners is not their area, and so they end up avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the saying? If you don't know your numbers in business, you're not in business, or whatever that saying. Right?
That's a good one. But I also think about like your numbers. And you're a mom, so you will resonate with this. When your child wakes up in the middle of the night and there's a monster in the closet and they're screaming for you. So one of two things happens. They either scream until somebody intervenes, or they freeze and pray for someone to come intervene. Right? Like, someone's got it, because I'm going to get eaten by the monster. So the intervention comes, and most of the time what happens is a parent comes in, looks in the closet, turns on the light, and it turns out it was just kind of a shadow of the teddy bear. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
And that's really what it is. Like if we can just shine a light on it,
Yeah.
we can see it, we can understand it. Like it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah.
And most of the time it is a teddy bear in the closet.
I've found that too in my life when I've avoided things. And sometimes it's been avoidance around money and really my fear, my excuses, I don't understand it, or it's going to be worse than I think it is. But when I finally hunker down and strapped in, it's like, oh my gosh, all those weeks or hours or sometimes months of putting this off could have been saved by just dealing with it or hiring the right person to help me handle it. Yeah.
Well, and 99% of the time, it's not as bad as you think it is.
Right.
Because like the teddy bear in the closet, like you just make it bigger and bigger in your mind, and it's really not that bad.
Right. So the first book was written again from panic to profit for attorneys.
Yep.
And this next one that's coming out Q1 probably for 2021.
Yes, I'm supposed to have advanced reader copies. I'm giving a speech at an EO event in Las Vegas.
And you want to have them for that.
And they're like, are you going to have it? Are you going to have it? And I got to tell you, my publisher's like, oh my God. I'm like, can't we wait on, the book cover a little bit? And they're like, do you want it for that event or not? I'm like, okay, yes.
Right. I love it. And this particular book, same concept. Are you focusing on the 6 key numbers and helping people understand that? But it is the story is told through the lens for business owners, not just that specific industry.
So again, it's for service-based businesses.
Love it.
Like, here's what you need to know. And everything I do in the book, I try to do in plain kitchen table English. And I try to use a lot of examples because I don't know about you, but there are some books that I read and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a slog. And then there are other books that you read that kind of tell a story.
That light you up.
I'm trying to think of, all my books are right over here and I'm looking at, and I can't find any of them. Like The Go-Giver and The Go-Giver Sells More, whoever wrote those. And of course, now I'm looking over here and I can't find them. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is also a great example. Like it's all about the story.
Yeah.
And I can plow through that. Like that's interesting. So that was one of the things that we really tried to do, that I tried to do with this book, is put enough stories in there and convey the concepts through stories, because it's not a slog.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that for us. Two more questions before we round up the segment today. One, you and I talked a little bit about it. I asked how things have been going for you given the pandemic, and you and I both reflected it's going well for us. And that we feel guilty.
Yeah. It feels slightly ooky, doesn't it?
But yes. And thank goodness you are doing what you're doing and have been doing it for so long at the pace and the level in which you've been doing it, so that your clients know they're in good hands.
Yeah.
And so how has the pandemic changed your business, or has it at all?
So I think it's changed it in a number of ways. First of all, more people have realized they need to get their numbers under control. So we have had, more clients come on. It's also changed a little bit our relationship with our clients. Our job has always been to take the stress off of our clients.
Yeah.
Like that's what we do. When you add in the pandemic, okay, every client's getting on every call totally in crisis. And I gotta tell you, that's been hard on my team. Yeah. Because it's our job to take it, and we're taking it and we're taking it and we're taking it. And they're like, we're exhausted. So, fingers crossed on this vaccine thing.
Yeah.
And that in 6 months, we'll be having totally different conversations. But here's what we've noticed. Businesses that require you to be there in person, restaurants, retail, have really suffered. Professional services, service-based businesses, like as we look across our client base, service-based businesses are down at most 15 to 20%. Most of our service businesses are up. And then you look at anybody who has anything to do with the internet. They are out of control. We have one company that did a little under 2 million last year. He is going to do, are you ready for this? He is going to do 17 million this year.
Oh my gosh.
And I think 7 of it he's going to do in December.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I love so much about what you've taught us today about those 6 key numbers is that as you and he and his team have been watching those numbers and paying attention, you've been giving him that roadmap to plan for the trajectory.
Yeah.
Because so many business owners, they could have the potential for that, but if they're not prepared, it's not going to happen, or the wheels are going to fall off.
Absolutely. And the numbers don't change, right? We're looking at the same numbers month in, month out, whether it's a $1 million business or a $20 million business, because these are the things that drive that drive any company.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but we talked about Disney earlier when we were off air. Yeah. My brother graduated from NAU with an accounting degree back in the mid 80s. He was career Disney his whole life. And about 5 or 6 years in, I think, to Disney as an accountant, a junior accountant, he was like, numbers are numbers. And just because it's Disney doesn't mean the numbers are necessarily any more fun or less fun than anybody else's numbers. And so he personally made the choice to go into creative and end up being an Imagineering, a VP for Imagineering. But it's funny because numbers are just that, they're numbers. And thank God for people like you who find them fun.
We do. And my team jokes all the time. They're like, we're numbers girls. We want numbers in boxes. That's what makes us happen. Numbers in boxes, people put numbers in boxes.
I love it. Love it. And so for those of you that are just listening to the live broadcast or the podcast, once we drop it, you don't get to see Brooke in her office. She's got this fantastic artwork behind her with all the words that we might use to describe money. And I can only see a few because your body's in front of us.
Here, let me move a little.
Yeah, moolah, dinero, skins, loot, shekels. Is that right?
Yeah, shekels.
Peanuts, boodle, bread, hard cash, chicken scratch, dead presidents, liquid assets, Benjamins, cabbage, cheddar, chump change, spare change, hard cash, gravy. Oh my gosh, so fun.
And my favorite one, which I think is the almighty dollar.
That's the bottom one. It takes up
the bottom one. Almighty dollar.
I love it. So fun. And the reason why I shared that is it really speaks to who I know you to be. And we don't know each other well, but this has been fun to get to know you better. The humor, the wit, the ability to be relatable, in addition to having this wicked smart brain that can take the numbers that are so important to us and make and simplify it so we can show up with more enthusiasm for the people that we serve. Because you're doing that. I mean, we have to do it in concert with you, but you're doing that. You're doing that for and with us in tandem as our partner.
When I went back to grad school, I did a whole bunch of testing beforehand, and I think I told you I went back to do marketing, but all the testing said I should be an accountant, and I'm like, oh, dude, I'm way too entertaining to be an accountant.
Yes, for sure.
And in general, our whole team is like that. We're a bunch of women that have personality, that don't have judgment. And I think about so many business owners that come to us and they kind of slink in. They're like, I did this. Or, okay, so I'm going to have to tell you about this other thing. And I'm like, bring it on, what you got?
Yeah.
They're like, I did this. And my theory is that entrepreneurs are incredible people. And they are passionate about their business, and they will do anything to keep it going. Mm-hmm. And do they always make the best decision in hindsight? No. Do they make the best decision with the information they have at the time? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So what I've realized is that they'll do things that a normal CFO or a normal financial person will say, how in the world did you take an advance from your credit card processing company? That's just an idiotic thing. I'm like, dude, did you make payroll? And they're like, yeah, I made payroll. I was on the phone with a client this morning, and their biggest deal is, are we going to be able to make payroll? Because they're having a big cash crunch right now.
Sure.
And they will do anything. One of the partners is like, I'm putting everything on my personal credit card because we have to make payroll. I'm like, you got to make payroll. It's what we're going to do right now. And later on, we're going to fix it. Later on, we're going to make it better.
Oh, so refreshing.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, you own a business and you put your blood, your sweat, your tears, and you actually, almost every business owner I know puts their company ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
And I have to admire that.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness. And that you can be there, not to, swat our wrists or make us feel worse than we already feel about ourselves, but be able to acknowledge and see where that decision came from.
Yep.
And be able to say, this is okay, we're right here right now. Now, this is what we can do going forward.
Yeah, we do have clients that don't do what we tell them to do. And we're like, seriously, we told you not to do that. And you went off and did it. And so the rule in the company is you get one I told you so.
You have to have that.
And then and it's funny because we had one client, her CFO was named Laura, and she kept doing all this stuff that we kept telling her not to do. And Laura would be like, okay, I only get one I told you so. And here it is. Okay. And, she'd go off and she'd do something again that we told her not to do. And Laura would be like, when are you going to start listening? And there came a day when she was like, you told me not to do that. But the rule is you can only say it once per dumb thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So great to be with you again today. Please let us know, for our listeners who are not familiar with you and the work that you do, how they can get started working with you. What does that look like if there's a business that fits the demographic and is like, okay, we need someone to be paying attention to these 6 key numbers?
Yeah. So the easiest way to find us is our website. It's cathcap.com. So our company is Cathedral Capital. We couldn't get that URL. It's right. cathcap.com. So you can find us there. And what happens is, shoot us an email and we'll set up a call and I'll talk to you. And I'll talk to you to learn what's happening in your company and see what's going on and see if we can help, if we're the right person to help. We may or may not be.
Love it. Love it. Again, we've spent time with Brooke Lively, founder and president of Cathedral Capital. Again, the website is cathcap.com. And once the podcast drops, we'll have that information, of course, alongside the audio as well. Thank you so much for being with us today. Hang with me after we go off air for just a moment so I can properly tell you thank you and take a quick photo or two. Thanks again for listening all. We'll see you next time on Business RadioX. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki.